Hello, Garland Nixon here. Thursday, 3 p.m. We're hanging out with Larry Johnson and plenty to talk about. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon, and we're talking with Larry Johnson. Larry, as you know, what we do each week. He has great articles at Sonar 21. We talk, a bit about his articles, but we talk about generally the stuff that's going on. Before we get Larry going, Larry, um, you've probably heard the famous Sun Tzu saying, and what is it? Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat, right?
Yeah, I wish
And
I wish I would have said that.
well, it seems to me we're hearing the noise before defeat because what we hear, it's like, okay, what are you trying to accomplish here? And now it is sunk down to, well, if Americans die, we'll blow up a bridge. If they do this, shoot a ship, then we'll blow up a bridge or a school or something like that. And I'm like, it just sounds like a revenge strategy. What the hell does that have to do with winning or losing? It's like we're in a war and you're not supposed to lose in a war. Like you punch the enemy, but you never expect that he's ever going to punch back. And if he punches back and he lands a blow, then you're outraged. To which I say you shouldn't have gotten the damn war in the first place. But anyway, your thoughts about this madness that we're hearing from Trump? Well, if they do anything that would imply they're actually fighting back in this war, then we'll be outraged and do something crazy.
Yeah, well, if you can get in a bar fight, just make sure you're not getting into a bar fight with the son of the owner of the bar, and that all of his relatives are there are regular customers, because then all of a sudden you're in a fight you can't win, and that's what Trump has gotten the United States into. We sit around and tell ourselves how great we are. You know, um, I don't ever recall, and so I'll date myself, that going back to Wilt Chamberlain never had to go around telling people how great he was. Hank Aaron never had to go around telling people how great he was. Now, I'll give Muhammad Ali a break on this, okay? Yeah, but he was just truth in advertising because, he backed it up. But here we got Trump talking about, man, we're winning. We're winning. You see, we're winning. Look how much we destroyed. And we've wiped them out. And meanwhile, anybody who's still can, got a decent pair of ears, can hear and can read, eyes that work, can see that the United States has been pushed out of every military base that we had in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and now Jordan of all places. And so it's just one lie piled upon another. I mean, I'm getting very, really frustrated with it. It's so, you know, having to listen to these, just flood of lies pouring out of Donald Trump's mouth. And, he was just talking about, again, it shows you how out of touch with reality is. He was just talking about, well, we've only lost 18 dead. That doesn't compare to and he said this, the 200,000 we lost in Vietnam. And it's like, disrespect every Vietnam veteran that you don't even recognize. 58,000 died, not 200,000, thank God. But again, he's divorced from reality. Lives in his own little fantasy world. But the problem with it is his decisions are getting people killed.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Larry. That first statement you made. I was in a bar in London called, and you probably heard of this, the Troubadour.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go there because they're like, oh, Jimi Hendrix was it, and dropping their name and all the names of these greats that were there. And I'm like, oh, hell, I got to go to the Troubadour. And I was in the Troubadour, and this guy bumps into me. I didn't think nothing of it. And I looked, and he looked like one of these skinhead kind of guys, right? Kind of neo-Nazi skinhead. Didn't think anything of it. I'm wandering around a little bit, just meandering around, listening to the music, whatever. Somebody bumps into me again. It's that guy again. And I think, now, It's exactly what you said. I looked around, some training in self-defense, and here's what you get trained in self-defense. Go home alive. Don't try to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to show everybody that I can fight this guy. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to do this or that. I'm going to humiliate. It's go home alive. So I looked around the bar and I thought, maybe nothing, but it don't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, well, okay, I got kind of near the door. I kind of got my back to the wall. I can see everything. Pulled out my phone, got an Uber, kept an eye on this guy. When the Uber got there, right out the door into the car. Why? Could he have friends with him? Could he have somebody waiting outside? Right. So my training said to me one thing: you go home alive.
Yeah.
Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to demonstrate your prowess against whoever. Don't try to get your revenge on every neo-Nazi that you've ever hated. Get your ass out of there and go home.
Yeah.
I got out of there and I went back to Earl's Quarter, which is where I was staying, right? Got the hell out of there. Got something to eat, which in London it wasn't worth a crap, as you probably know, but I got something to eat and I went home. And I think that's our point. You'll never win. You can't win when you're trying to prove something and prove your mind. They're part of the world. Everything is in their favor. You know what I mean? They've been there. They know the land, lay of the land. It's all set up for them. They can do whatever you want. And it would be like me in the bar confronting that guy saying, that's it, I'm going to kick your ass. And then his 5 buddies surround me. And then, you know what I mean? And they all got knives or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like a mentality that's not a mentality about surviving. He's not thinking, I got to survive political. He's not thinking, I got to keep my troops alive. It's like, I'll show them how macho and tough I am. That's the way it comes across to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in fact, the strategy you executed getting out of the troubadour, Trump should execute now getting out of the Persian Gulf and out of Iran. Call the Uber, go home. You know, focus on making America great again. You know, I honestly, but if he actually made that his focus, but he has now, listen, there was like a small fire in the kitchen. Now he's poured gasoline throughout the house, and man, the whole house is going up in flames. You know, just 2 weeks ago, the future price of oil for Brent was $70. Now it's going up $30. You know, so it's over 101 now. And
it's 101 now?
Uh-huh.
It was only like 92 3 or 4 hours ago.
No, it's 101.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's jumped in the last 3 or 4 hours.
No, it jumped. It was 95 last night, but this morning it took off. Now, okay, so now let's see. Was that right? That can't be right. Got to update the chart. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's 100. It was 94. Yeah, so it's up $6 since yesterday. So this, you know, you can't hide that anymore. Price of diesel is going up because it is in short supply, as is aviation fuel. But, you know, I don't understand. You know, some fairly sophisticated financial analysts keep touting, oh, you know, we're a major oil exporter. Yeah, but what kind of oil do we export? We export this sweet crude that has very low sulfur content. It's excellent oil, but the refineries that are set, the way a refinery is set up in order to cook, if you will, bake the oil, cook it, so that you produce different products. The sour crude, the high sulfur content, has a lot more impurities, and there's actually a lot more products that are made out of that, ironically. But just because we have sweet crude doesn't mean we have the refineries that turn that sweet crude into diesel and aviation fuel. That actually comes from sour crude. 70% of our domestic refineries are set up to handle sour crude, not sweet crude. So so what we are, we're in the midst of a shortage of diesel and aviation fuel. It just hasn't hit everybody yet with full force. But, you couple that with the other warning signs in the economy, and, Trump's walked us into an economic catastrophe, and now he's going to escalate militarily. They're going to launch a massive bombing strike with B-1, B-2s, and B-52s on Friday. I believe it'll take place on Friday. They're going to wait till after the market closes. After the market closes, then they're going to go. They're going to try to start World War III, essentially. And I think Iran's ready for it. I think Iran recognizes that this is coming, and the Israelis are, opening up their bomb shelters again. I think they recognize they're going to get hit because all the U.S. aircraft that used to be based in these, at Al Udeid and at Al Isa in Bahrain and at Ali Salam in Kuwait, and then Muwafaq Al Salti and Prince Hassan in Jordan and King Faisal. It's on the border of Jordan and Saudi Arabia. We've had to pull all of our aircraft out of there, so they're all relocating to Israel. It's making Israel a big target, and Israel, if they sustain another strike against their refineries, they're going to be out of the war game. They will not have jet fuel and diesel. Jet fuel for their combat aircraft and diesel for their tanks and vehicles.
Wow. And speaking of which, let's go right to your latest article. I think it's important. The U.S. faces a strategic crisis in Iran with rapid depletion of U.S. battlefield missiles. And you show here that there are some of these these 17 rare earth minerals that are necessary. So if you could talk about that, Larry.
Yeah. So you'd think that when we were developing a missile force, that there would have been some strategic planning involved. And what I mean by strategic planning is you say, we'll assess everything we need in order to build these and to ensure that we have an uninterrupted supply chain to get access to them. But instead, in every category, there are three basic categories of precision missiles. We got the air defense, which consists of the Patriot and the THAAD. And the Patriot the Patriot system fires a missile called the PAC-3 now. It also fired the PAC-2, but that's an older missile, doesn't have the same capabilities as PAC-3. So you got the air defense section. Then you've got what they call suppression of enemy air defense, that you get a signature, like a radar signature is lit up, and this missile will hone in on that and go in and destroy it. So that's called the HARM missile. And then we got the precision middle to long distance missiles, the Tomahawks, the JASSMs, the Prisms, which are launched from the HIMAR system, as well as the ATACMS, which is launched from the HIMAR system. Every single one of those missiles that I've just mentioned, are nearing depletion, or they're at a critical level. In other words, they're like 2,000 or less. And people say, well, that sounds like a lot. Not when that's 2,000 that have to be divided between the European Command, Central Command, and Pacific Command. No, it's not a lot. In the case of the Patriot missile, we're out. In the case of the THAAD missile, we're out. So basically, we have no more air defense missiles to speak of. There might be 10 or 20, but that's when you have to fire 2 of those against every incoming missile, it means we might be able to handle 5 missiles. Big deal. And all of these precision missiles require rare earth minerals. China dominates because they do the refining. Garland, I could take you here to Mosaic Mining Company, which is just about 20, 30 minutes from me. Mm-hmm. And they got piles of these tailings, gypsum mines. They dig out the mines and the the leavings,
Hmm.
what's left over. Well, those are filled with these rare earth minerals. The problem is you got to extract them from that pile of refuse, and that's what China does. It's expensive, and it's pretty dirty, environmentally harmful. So they control basically 91, 94%. They got a 94% of the world's magnets. All of those precision missiles use types of magnets for the guidance system. So we're in a situation now where we're ramping up attacks against Iran. We don't have enough missiles in any category to sustain that attack. We might be able to keep it up for 2-3 weeks, and then we're out. On the other hand, Iran's got ample supplies because they're built. A, they don't have an interruption in their supply chain. We do. B, their manufacturing systems are underground where we can't touch them. So, and they've been building away ever since the war started on February 28th. They've been using what they have, but they've been firing as well. And the difference now is their missiles are highly, highly accurate because they switched over previously last June 2025, during the 12-day war, when the technician would sit down and plug in the coordinates that they wanted the missile to hit. We want you to hit here at the corner of walk and don't walk. And they'd type it in, and it was going to be guided there by GPS. Well, GPS is a U.S. system, and I'll probably be shocked by this. The United States built backdoors into that software. And so they get a backdoor in, and they can go in and change the coordinates on the Iranian missiles. So they don't go to the corner of walk and don't walk. They go to the corner of walk and I'm lost as hell. So Iran they discovered that. And so they switched over to China's system that is for finding geographic locations on Earth with satellites. It's called the Beidou. You just think of Play-Doh and you remember how to pronounce it, Beidou. Well, with that Beidou system, Iran, during the first 5 weeks of the war, took out 19 critical radar and satellite communication systems that basically gave the United States the ability to see everything that was going on land and on sea over an enormous area stretching to India in the east, Spain in the west, the Black Sea coast of Russia in the north, Diego Garcia in the south. Big area. Iran went in and systematically destroyed that. It was worth over $5 billion, that whole system. And there were $2 billion radar systems in there. We can't even begin to replace those. And then once again, what do they require? Rare earth minerals. So, we're getting a common theme here that we are ultimately and completely dependent upon China's supply chain. And China's looking at us saying, oh, you want these rare earths to put in military equipment? Forget about it. We're not giving it to you. You don't get it. So we're at an interesting phase in this war now where Iran can hit. They're starting to focus on housing, where soldiers are living, fuel tanks, and hangars, because they don't have to worry about the radars and the air defense systems anymore.
Wow. Well, we saw that. I don't know if you saw it, video that soldiers are starting to release some video, which they could get in trouble with, but I guess they figure, what the hell, I'm gonna get killed. I might as well get this out. Where, there's the incoming, the alarms, what do you call them? The air alarms, air
Yeah,
raid sirens
the air
going
raid
off,
sirens. Yeah,
and bombs blowing up around them, and everybody's running for their lives. And now we see soldiers getting killed. We're seeing radar. Excuse me. We're seeing satellite images of, pinpoint accuracy where their barracks taken out. Um, to me, you're in a situation where you were losing the war the first go round. You get back in the war, maybe you forgot what you've been losing it, but you get a reminder. So you're going to hit them hard, so called. It's like every time, all we hear is one thing. Well, they scored a bunch of hits on so and so. What are you going to do? We're going to hit them hard. Well, they wouldn't take this agreement. We're going to hit them harder and harder, hard. It's like the only thing Trump and these knuckle draggers know how to say is we're going to hit them harder than ever.
Yeah.
There's no strategy in hitting harder forever. There's nothing that's going to come, but it's just like, well, that's what we do. We hit them harder than ever, and we're not even sure why.
Well, and it implies in that we were pulling our punches in the first place. It's like, wait a second. If you're going to war, go to war. You know, if you can get into a fight, fight. You don't say, well, I'm just going to slap him. I'm not going to punch him. Well, you know, that's ridiculous. But I heard one of the stupidest remarks from Marco Rubio, but it shows you the juvenile mentality of these guys. He said, well, Foreign Minister Arachi of Iran said, an eye for an eye. Well, he just doesn't know Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, a head for an eye. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So we're talking about beheading people. Gee, that's so jihadist of us.
And it also implies tactics. It implies we're thinking about if you do this, we'll do that. Then if you do this, we'll do that. I think Iran seems to have a long-term plan because when they started hitting us again, what do? Systematically, they're taking out radar systems. It seems to me that their plan of choosing items is not the United States did that, so therefore we'll, quote, hit them hard. It's first we're going to blind them. And then after we blind them, we'll take out their fuel depots, their ammo depots, and this. Then after we take, you know what I mean? It's a systematic, the way people used to actually do war when they use their friggin' brains instead of another part of their body.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely no strategic thinking going on. And meanwhile, just like yesterday, the U.S. announced that it had withdrawn its personnel and aircraft from Mawafaq al-Salti Air Base in Jordan, which was a major base for us, and from this other base called King Faisal. So we no longer really have a presence at the former Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. We are rapidly depleting forces in the both the Ali Salam Air Base in Kuwait as well as Camp Bushir, and there are a couple of other camps that have a history with the United States Army going back to the first Gulf War in 1990. But what we're seeing is the United States is being forced out of the Middle East. There was a report the other day that this $250 million drone we have, it's called the MQ-4C Triton, and the Iranians had already shot down one of them. They cost $250 million a piece. Astonishing. And the one was another one was based there at Mawafaq al-Salti or the Prince Hassan Air Base. Not sure which, but they pulled it out, sent it back to Sigonella in Italy, where it's safe. Think about that. It's not safe in Jordan because we can't protect it because our air defense sucks.
Wow. Let's take a look at this. This is another article that you'll find at sonar21.com. Israel's critical fuel exposure. You know, Larry, you're the first person I've heard talk about this. So if you could let people know that, we're talking about our ability to wage war and how, an army fights on its stomach. You people probably already heard that old thing. But in today's day and age with mechanized war, an army has to fight on fuel, particularly when everything's in the air. And Israel seems to be having some issues also.
Well, yeah, I got the tip off from this from an energy consultant. He was the one that was schooling me on the difference between sweet and sour crude and the nature of refineries and what the actual real oil supply is. And he sent me just a paper that he's done. It really wasn't. It was sent to select clients of his, but I had permission to republish parts of it. And what he pointed out is during the first 45 days of this war, Israel's got two major oil refineries that basically produce all of their diesel and jet fuel. Both of those were damaged, but the one in Haifa was damaged the most. There's another one in Ashdod. Right now, Israel is operating on, let's call it operating on fumes. They don't have a surplus. And what got me thinking about this was when we heard Bezalel Smotrich, who's, I mean, he's a piece of work, like Satan's spawn, and always looking to go attack Iran. But he was talking about Israel didn't need to attack. Israel needed to stay out of it. Just let the United States do the fighting. And I thought, well, why is he taking that sort of, I call it a conciliatory attitude, and got to keep Israel out of it? Well, the reason is Israel knows that if they go back into if Iran starts attacking them again, Israel's air defense system does not work. It's depleted. They will not be able to defend against that. And Iran is likely to take out their refineries, take out their ports, take out their power systems. They will turn the lights off in Israel. And the Israelis are not prepared for that. I think they fear that's what could happen. So it is, I think this weekend is going to be pretty impactful in terms of the global economy and the prospects for any peace left there in the Persian Gulf. The United States, I believe, is going to launch massive attacks against Iran's nuclear sites. Iran, in turn, has promised that if that happens, they're going to take out the power systems in those countries that are aligned with the United States. And if that, I think Qatar could be on the list, Saudi Arabia, of course, Kuwait, Bahrain. Iran's already struck some of the desalinization plants in Kuwait. Without shut down all of those plants, Kuwait ceases to exist as a country. Its people have to leave, or they're gonna have to go other places. So I think we are on the threshold of a major escalation.
Well, at that point, Larry, and we can see Larry, just make sure you check out Larry's article, Israel's Critical Fuel Exposure, and it goes over all of the information and details that you'll know to understand the problem. As always, Larry has these great articles, and read them. I do, and you'll learn a lot. At that point, let me change this. At this point, I think our economy, there's no hope to save it. I think, maybe if, a couple months ago, if they'd have said, okay, we're going to chill out, we're going to stop this, we're going to get things going. At this point, it looks like we're just getting closer and closer to the point where it's like, and you've heard so many people say it, you've said it too, the coyote that chasing a road runner, he runs off the cliff. And he's over the cliff, and he don't know it until he looks down, and he realizes he's down. Down he goes. That we are over that cliff right now. Yeah. There's no way to get the oil that we need, and within weeks, if not months, we don't know how long it's going to be, but when it hits, they're going to have to ration it, and diesel fuel is going to be real hard to come by, which means really economic destruction for this country.
Yeah, well, not only that, and it injects another significant boost of inflation, because the diesel goes into trucks. The truck drivers have to pay more, so they're hauling fruits and vegetables. Those fruits and vegetables are going to then go up in price just because of the transportation costs. Now, it won't be a huge increase, but it'll be an increase. But then, let's take that another step further. That is a result of what's happened in the Persian Gulf, the cutoff of fertilizer. Well, where do most of the U.S. fruits and vegetables come from these days? They come out of Mexico. Okay? Mexico needs fertilizer to grow those fruits and vegetables. They've had to pay now more money for the fertilizer. So the price of those fruits and vegetables, those are going up. So you've got an increase in price because of higher fertilizer, and now you've got an increase in price because of the transportation and fuel. So the United States is going to be facing a significant punch in the nose in terms of inflation.
Right. And then, of course, if you're raising, I know guys, I got friends over on the Eastern Shore. The chickens is big over there, right?
Oh
That
yeah,
guys
yeah,
that have farms or work boats, other things. But one of the things, you know how those guys are, they do several things. And one of the things, they have these big chicken houses that they sell to Mount Air or Tyson or whoever, right? But you got to buy this chicken food or whatever kind of animals you've got. You might have to buy corn or very Timothy or whatever for your animals. You got to buy all of this food. Well, that stuff is raised with this expensive fertilizer. So now to raise the chickens or whatever, the cost of the food goes up, the cost of the chicken. It looks like by when the crops come in this fall, and when it gets to the point where we're living off of those crops, there's going to be a significant jump right there, just from what it costs to raise those crops. This say, and that's going to start in say August, well even now, but especially in the fall.
well, yeah, and then let's do the bankruptcy numbers. So for the first quarter of 2026, total U.S. bankruptcy filings were up 14% compared to the previous year, and uh, they've gone up as of March 31st for the 12-month period from last April to this March is up 12%. So the we've got economic problems when you got bankruptcies, then you got layoffs taking place. Uh, Despite all of Trump's happy talks, it's not a strong economic environment. Just the opposite. There's certain areas of the country that are doing fine, but there are other areas of the country that are not.
Well, I mentioned here the last day that he sounds like Kamala Harris. During the elections, everybody was like, the economy's terrible. And Kamala Harris and the Democrats were like, oh, it's great. It's wonderful. We've got websites. Click on our website. And people are like, I can't afford shit. I
Yeah,
can't afford stuff. And you're going to tell me to go to your website because you say the economy is great because it benefits you. Now I see Trump and he's turned into the Democrats. The economy's great. The stock market's better than ever. Everything's wonderful. And I'm like, you sound just like the Democrats when they were on the way out the door.
yeah, yeah. No, but again, there's no strategic vision for the economy. There's no strategic vision for what's going on with Iran and the Persian Gulf, and certainly no strategic vision with Russia. So we're just we're more like we're playing. We got a whack-a-mole president. He's just responding to whatever seems to crisis crops up without thinking it through. How do we prevent these crises, or how do we resolve these crises?
Now, it seems to me that at some point, I think, because we read things sometimes in the news, and you can read between the lines that the leaks, the Washington Post story, different stories, and you say those leaks came from inside the house. Those leaks came from the Pentagon. When they say, well, we're critically short of weapons, but the White House doesn't seem to know it. Well, that came from the Pentagon. That came from people
Right.
who are trying to say this, and it's just bouncing off these knuckleheads, right? I think there's going to be some political instability as things go bad. And you know how rats jump off the sinking ship and they start saying, hey, I tried to tell the White House, hey, oh, don't blame me. I tried to tell. The leaks are going to turn into people going on TV saying, I tried to tell him this was going to happen, as these so-called people that are kissing Trump's, that are surrounding him, kissing his butt. He's
Yeah.
the greatest president. Nobody could do what he did. When times get hard and people start looking for a scapegoat, they're going to turn on him and all say it was his fault.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. It is. Um, this is Trump's living in a bubble, and increasingly the stories are coming out that when he's given bad news, he gets angry at the person bringing the bad news. Um, they've seen over at the Pentagon what happens. Anyone who, brings up bad news about military capabilities, running out of missiles, such, they get fired. We recall what happened to the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency a year ago, June, right after the 12-day war, and DIA said, well, absolutely, we did not obliterate Iran's nuclear capability, and it is still retains its ability to enrich uranium, etc., with centrifuges. Trump had him fired. Now, here we are a year later. It turns out he was right. The head of DIA was absolutely right. And Trump is now saying, oh, yeah, well, we got to stop them from getting a nuke. Well, so wait a second. You said a year ago you'd obliterated it. And then last week you said everything we're doing in all this military activity is to degrade Iran's ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. You said nothing about nukes. So they keep searching around to come up with an excuse, a justification to continue military operations. And, Trump may be building up this massive strike where he gets, oh, bad, we'll get another. We obliterated them this time. Really, we did. And so therefore, they've come begging for talks. Now, they're not the one begging for talks. It's the United States. At least that's what Pepe and I are being told by Pakistani sources that are playing intermediary. That it's the United States is begging for it, not Iran. So, yeah, we'll see. This is, I think, this weekend is going to be a pivotal moment, and in a bad way for the United States.
I saw Hegseth when he was being interviewed. I think it was Ossoff or somebody asking him questions, and he looked like a fool. Basically what was happening, and that's there's you probably heard this old saying, a liar better have a good memory.
Yeah.
Right. And he was just saying, on this date, you said everything they had was destroyed, obliterated for years, decades to come. Hegseth couldn't answer him. He would just start wandering around. And he's like, well, okay, all right. On this date, you said you destroyed all of their military capability. Is that accurate? He'd make something up. And it was, you looked at it and what you saw was this with Hegseth. A history of just making the grandest statement possible. Everything's wiped out. Everything's destroyed. We won. We destroyed them, blah, blah, blah. And never a thought that, one of these days I might have to answer for that. It's just like, we destroyed, we beat, we won, everything's gone. Not like one of these days, there are videos, such thing, you're on videotape, Pete. And then someday, you're going to have to look at that videotape. And how are they? Oh, what was the woman? Maria Bartiromo.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Trump said they destroyed everything. How are they still able to shoot at us? She was baffled.
Yeah, she really was. She was genuinely puzzled because she had bought into all the bullshit. And someone quoted Ayn Rand today, saying, she says, you can deny reality, but there comes a moment when, despite your denials, reality becomes real. And, we can pretend that we can be in denial about all these things. It's just like, imagine you're the captain of the Titanic. The Titanic is not sinking. We're unsinkable. We're fine. Just hang in there. And then the ship sinks. And so it doesn't matter how fervently the captain believed that it wasn't going to sink. It was there were other factors at play beyond his belief. And, it would be one thing if the United States had gone into the Red Sea over that 18-month period from December of 2023, when the Biden administration announced Operation Prosperity Guardian, and then followed by Trump's Operation Rough Rider, that we actually schooled the Houthis and forced them to pull in their missiles and to allow ships to pass unfettered and unharmed. But we failed. And we were bombing the shit out of them. And, we killed a lot of civilians. And so now we're going back for another bite at that apple. Oh, good luck, guys. Or I've heard Pakistan supposedly was making threats. Oh, we're going to go in and show those Houthis. Yeah, good luck, guys. You're telling me you got better capabilities than a U.S. Navy carrier strike group? I don't think so. And what the Houthis showed was up against the best. It's like think back in the day when, you go back 40 years when the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl. William Refrigerator Perry, and they had this incredible team. And so if you go up the match, you play up against that team and you hold your own or you even beat them, hey, That's just something about you. And then what we've got is, so far, Iran held its own against Team One and Team Two, against Team America and Team Israel. And it was still standing after taking some blows, taking some punches, taking some devastating hits. But it turned out it could give back exactly what it was getting. And that's where, up to this point, the United States has had the luxury of launching these wars overseas because most of these countries can't touch us. One of these days, we're going to cross that line, and I don't know if it'll be Russia or China or North Korea, but somebody's then going to touch us. And all of a sudden, we've our 250 years. Well, we have to, I guess, remember the British invasion of Washington, D.C. Of course, we started that war, 1812, but that was really the last time we had to deal with an actual military action on our territory from an outsider, apart from the bandidos from Mexico back in the around 1914, 15. But once we get one of our cities bombed, all of a sudden, Americans are going to start saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We were promised that we were safe, that we could go beat the shit out of whoever we wanted and they couldn't touch us. Now, when they come back and start touching us, it's going to be a rude awakening.
Well, I think we're going to get a rude awakening because they're going to touch us economically in a very, very short period of time. We're going to get a rude and ugly economic awakening. And, meanwhile, Pete Hegseth has a plan. He's going to test the testosterone of the soldiers so we can put them on a testosterone replacement therapy, as they call it, which tells me he's no doubt taking. Of course, he's Joe steroid macho guy, so he's doing that. And a quick story. When I turned 41, I went in and my doctor says, "Hey, Garland, they got this stuff called testosterone TRT replacement therapy." Exactly what he's talking about. Why don't I test you? You might be interested. And I said, nah, I feel fine. There's no reason for me to try anything. About 10 years later, the same doctor, I'm in his office and he's looking and he goes, "Hey, I got a question. Did you ever do that test?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, I think it's good." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, it increases your chance of heart attack and prostate cancer."
Good.
He said, so if you take it, you get some benefits, but the odds that you'll have either a heart attack or prostate cancer increase. So I would suggest that you don't do it. And I'm like, well, you ain't got to suggest it, pal, because I don't do things that I don't need to do,
Yeah.
But at any rate, even then, so you're saying you're doing that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think when you start taking it, you can never come off. Because once you start taking it, I believe, isn't that true? Have you heard that before?
No, I haven't, but
I think once you start taking it, your body stops producing testosterone properly, and it's very difficult or something, or you can't take off something like that, But the bottom line is this: the soldiers, if they don't have a problem, let's test them all and put them on. It sounds to me, here's what I would think. I wonder what company produces. This is my cynical mind. I wonder what company produces that.
Yeah.
And who's getting kickbacks.
Yeah. Who's got to tie in for the friend and family program. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, no, the corruption of the Trump administration. I must say I opposed the previous impeachment efforts against him.
I agree.
And I thought they were all politically motivated. I thought that they were unfair. But man, I'll be leading the charge this time. He needs to be impeached. He needs to be convicted, and he probably needs to be criminally convicted because of the financial corruption that's taken place and the manipulation.
Yep. It's gotten to the point where every time you see something new, oh yeah, we're going to do testosterone replacement therapy. You think, if we start digging, we're going to find the Trump team, the Hegseth team. We're going to find somebody has just bought money. And you know what? They go on. When he says that, guess what probably happens? A bunch of people go buy stocks. The stocks are going to go up just because he says that, because they're going to be like, wow, if that goes to the military, that'll be like 1 million people getting it. And the Pentagon, it'll be all over. And then other people will get it. We're going to make millions. The stocks are going up right now. So guess what? You whisper to your friends, hey, guess what? buy stocks in testone replacement therapy. Watch this. And even if he doesn't do it, Hegseth comes out and says that a bunch of people buy stocks, they go up, and guess what you do then? You sell yours while they're high
Yeah.
and walk away. And when they drop back down because you don't do it, you just made a fortune. You
Yeah.
know, or well, and when they go up, you sell a bunch of them, and then you do a put so that when they drop down, you're betting on them losing. So you win when they go up, and then you make more money when they go back down.
Well, yeah, it's like if we were going to launch some massive military strike on Iran, why would you talk about it publicly? Because you're trying to drive the stock market and the financial markets in one direction, and then maybe you don't. You boost the price, and then you're going to take action that's going to bring the price down, and so the people will be able to make money off that off that spread. Yeah, these are called derivatives, and it's just. But it's a level of incredible corruption, and I haven't even talked about Trump selling a watch that he never produced and selling a cryptocurrency that turned out to be a bust. Raking
His
in
wife too. His wife,
Yeah.
didn't she have a cryptocurrency too?
Yeah, I think so. But it's just they're ripping off Americans, and the problem is they're ripping off, a lot of simple people who actually believe Trump. And I'm not trying to, insult them, but there's some folks that just, they don't have the highest IQ and they don't have the best critical thinking skills. But there are people with high IQs and supposedly good critical thinking skills around Trump that are doing absolutely stupid stuff too. So it's not, I don't want to imply that it's just a matter of low IQ.
Now, let's check this out. You've got Sirski is out, the Saudis are blockaded. Let's start with this. And again, sonar21.com is where you go. Check out all of Larry Johnson. He has stuff up regularly, constantly. He's got lots of stuff up on there, a lot of good information, a lot of open source intelligence that he brings together and he uses. He also has still a lot of back channel stuff that he can get. So it's worth your while to check out sonar21.com. What the hell's going on? It seems like, people are getting fired. God only knows what. The drone guy gets fired and then he gets hired by Palantir. It seems like there's some kind of political instability going on right now. And also like color revolution stuff where like he fires somebody and then magically everybody takes to the streets because the people in Ukraine are all concerned about Fedorov or who's the next drone coordinator or whatever the hell, Larry.
Yeah, well, remember last 4 or 5, 6 weeks, we've been inundated with information about, hey, Ukraine's winning the war.
Yeah.
Ukraine's won the war. It's winning. So if you're winning the war, why do you replace your top commander? Why do you replace your commanding general? I mean, good God, reward the winner. But you fire the guy and you fire his chief of staff. I thought you were winning. That would suggest you're not winning, number one. And this conflict between Sirski and Fedorov. Fedorov was he might even make Pete Hegseth look competent to be in charge of the Department of Defense. He's only 35, and I don't think he ever served in the military. At least Hegseth has some military experience, albeit low level. But he was big on drones, and so he was having conflicts with Sirski. Sirski said, "Screw your drones. We need troops. We're short," and so that allocation of resources. Now, I'm willing to bet that in that allocation of resources buying drones, there was a whole chain of people getting paid, and that was another driving factor. But finally, under pressure from the military, Zelensky fired Sirski and then replaced him with a real bona fide nutcase. DePatley, I think is the guy's name, DePatley,
Right.
Who is he is a dyed-in-the-wool Nazi.
Right.
Ukraine's coming apart at the seams right now, and despite they've had some successful drone strikes in Russia on civilian enterprises, but they're not stopping Russia militarily. And Russia's basically, I think, decided it's had enough. It's taken the gloves off in Odessa, Any ship trying to get in or out of there, it's blowing it out of the water. It shut down Odessa as a port, along with Nikolaev. The Ukrainians are crying. They're trying to get a UN Security Council meeting so they can go bitch about it. And the Russians, I think, have taken the attitude, we don't give a damn. You can cry all you want. We're shutting you down. Which, frankly, I think they should have done 3 years ago. But that, it's a whole nother issue.
Well, it gave them an opportunity to blow up a lot of, shall we say, what is it, to demilitarize NATO. That's the other thing. For 3 years, well, now, geez, what, 4 years, you've been throwing all of this stuff into Ukraine, and it's been getting blown up. Everything you had thrown up the grate, throwing it into a garbage disposal, and it's been blown to hell. So now you start this war with Iran that you're also losing, and it's another garbage disposal. You're throwing all of this stuff in there, and it's just not doing you any good. And the stuff that you have is being blown up all over the Middle East. One can argue that over the last 4 to 5 years, the United States is being like fully demilitarized to the point where a few more months like this, the United States wouldn't be able to go. Well, actually, we wouldn't be able to go to war with Grenada because they probably still have like a couple of handguns on their police force or something, and we're out of everything.
Yeah, no, it is. And you have Andrei Martyanov on your show at least, I think once a week. I hope.
Yep.
And anybody's taken time to read Andrei's book, Losing Military Supremacy. I mean, he's written several, but that one stands out for me as just it encapsulated so much. But what he highlights is this disconnect between strategy and actual military procurement of weapons and force and mission. Everything is the United States is we're like one of those prehistoric bugs that's frozen in amber. We're frozen in the 20th century. All of our real thinking about warfare is shaped by what happened in World War II. And yet we have yet to come to grips that we're in the 21st century and the technology and supply chains have changed in a dramatic way. You go back and look at how quickly the United States was able to produce a combat aircraft, say in 1944. I think they could produce a plane in I forget how many hours. But we're talking hours. Now, to produce the F-35, you're talking more than a year.
Well, and now they come out with like weights on the front.
Yeah,
because they can't make a radar for it.
Now you have to go to Gold's Gym, get some weight plates because you gotta have something to replace the radar that's not there.
So it's not really an F-35. You know what I mean? I mean, if it doesn't have a radar and this thing works off of all of these electronics, then the F-35 is itself is a concept. It's just a designation for an aircraft. F-35 is designation for an aircraft, and that aircraft has certain electronic capabilities. I don't care what you designate that aircraft. If it doesn't have those electronic capabilities, it is not what F-35 is referring to. So you've got, you might as well say, well, it's got everything but an engine. It's other than an engine, it's fully an F-35. Well, it ain't taken off the ground. You can't use a plane that doesn't have a radar. Sure, if you were like a small plane, you want to fly around over the bay or something with some friends, fine. But if it's a military craft, so now basically they can't make military aircraft right now, can they?
No. I mean we have the combination of supply chain again. The big thing hold up with the F-35, rare earth minerals. For God's sake, I keep repeating it over and over and over. At some point, are we going to wake up and say, you know what, we got a rare earth mineral problem? And the solution, if we want a solution, is okay. We've got to go on a massive effort to build up a refinery that can do that, and we're going to have to circumvent EPA and a bunch of other things. Well, America's not willing to do it, and yet we dig ourselves deeper and deeper into these strategic holes, just as we're doing right now. When Trump comes out and says, "Oh, Strait of Hormuz is open," what? Strait of Hormuz is not open, and the United States does not have the military power to open it. Period. And people are happy to debate that with anybody. And they say, well, all we got to do is put ground troops in on Karg and Kemp's Island. Yeah, let's put ground troops on Kemp's Island. Do you realize how damn big Kemp's Island is? It's bigger than Okinawa. How many troops did we have to put onto Okinawa to secure it during World War II? And guess what? Kemp's Island's topography is about more rugged than Okinawa was, which means better firing and fighting positions for a defending force. We had 190,000 troops for Okinawa. And what, we're going to put a few thousand in on Kemp's Island and make a difference? Please. I'm totally frustrated with all the stupidity.
Yeah. Before I go, do you think that, I mean, the world, everybody with a brain saying, dude, you really can't do any ground stuff. That would be foolish. Do you think they're stupid enough to do that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Shame on any general officer above brigadier general that signs off on such a thing. They should have resigned in protest if it comes out, because the blood of those soldiers or Marines that land should be on their hands.
Yeah, they'll be massive. Well, everyone, let's not forget, it's very important that you understand that Sonar 21 is a great resource for you. It's sonar21.com, son of the New American Revolution. That's Larry's website, and all kinds of great articles going on, all kinds of stuff going on that he has. And somewhere around here, oh, there we go. If you want to join Larry, I think several of the people from the 1776 Law Center, Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's going to be in a week or so. Yeah, Saturday, August 1st, and Sunday, August 2nd. Go ahead, Larry. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, no, it'll be a week from Saturday. So in Chattanooga, Danny Davis will be there. Alexander McCurris, and Alex Cristoforo, they'll be there. Robert Barnes will be there. Rich Barris, who's a pollster, he'll be there. So it is basically let's call it it's a fundraising event for the 1776 Law Center. The money raised out of this event goes to fund legal cases. So basically, they're helping Americans whose constitutional rights are being violated. And so it's for a good cause.
There you go. Check that out. And if you have the opportunity to attend, that'd be great. Thanks a lot, Larry. And what you got going on? Anything big going on soon that people need to know about?
Oh, no, I'm going to do a regular routine. I'm with Nima later this afternoon, and then follow with Mario and Suleiman. So it's like a treadmill.
Yeah, I know about it now. I got to get ready, start working now. I'm doing hosting the Jimmy Dore show tomorrow, so I got to start putting that. I'll be working all evening putting that together. So, all righty.
Let me know. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, everybody, share this on all your social media platforms. You see everything going across the bottom. If you are able to, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee's great. PayPal's are great. If you're able to support the show, it's certainly highly appreciated. And of course, my Cash App, everything's there. And my P.O. Box for the snail mailers. Thanks a lot, everybody. Share this everywhere. I'm out.